Hey, everybody. Wanted to hop in for a minute. Hope this finds you in good health and spirits. I haven't been alive for a hot minute, so I wanted to hop in. Received a revelation yesterday and wanted to share it. I know it's going to be life changing for somebody today that listens to this, watches this. So definitely make sure that you share this out and like, comment, all that good stuff. Matter of fact, go ahead and chime in. Let me know where you're watching from today, and let's get some activity going. Again, I have a revelation that I wanted to share with everybody. I met a gentleman recently. His name is Michael Huey, very successful entrepreneur, and is now going full time into ministry with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and he's up in North Central Florida, Ocala area, and I met him recently through some mutual contacts on social media. We both attended the Faith Over Fear conference put on by Ray Higdon not too long ago, and what an amazing individual. Well, anyways, him and I connected, and I want to interview him on my Kingdom Influencer podcast, and he wanted to interview me on his He Fluence podcast, and so we hooked that up. And yesterday we got together, and I was a guest on his podcast, and he interviewed me. Now, of course, I got on and I shared my story from prison to purpose. I know some of y'all are looking at the background right now. No, I'm not actually sitting uh, in a prison. I'm actually in the studio, but I threw this image up here because it's really kind of it's irony. Obviously, this is behind me, and for those of you that know my story, know my journey, you know that obviously I was in prison and did some time in prison, and all of that is behind me. But there's been other situations in my life as well that put me in bondage, and those situations are behind me, and some soon to be behind me, etc. And metaphorically though, these prison bars behind me. I know there's a lot of people watching out right now that metaphorically you have some things in your life, some prisons that you might be living in right now, currently in your life. So the topic that I want to talk about today, again, and I'm not going to take up too much time, so give me some of your time, and I promise it's gonna be enlightening, and definitely share this out. So if you're popping in right now, please go ahead and comment. I'm going to talk a little bit about identity here over the next few minutes, your identity. So make a comment if you're watching this, and you do watch this on the replay. Then type in replay. Let me know that you were here. Let me know you showed up, and that you were able to hear this message that I have. So I'm on this podcast yesterday with Michael Huey, and I share my testimony, I share my story, my journey. And he asked me a question that stumps me for a moment. Now, I haven't got an opportunity to go back and watch the replay or see the interview yet to really see what my reaction was when he asked me this question. But he asked me a question, and he said something to the effect of, "So, Steve, tell everybody what your identity was like, or what your identity became after you accepted Christ." And I froze. Like, I got stuck for a moment, and immediately, the Holy Spirit began to reveal all of these things to me all at once, regarding identity and regarding my own life when it came to identity. And here's what I want to share with you, and what my response was basically to that question. Thanks for hopping in, guys. Comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Glad to have you with me. I want to give you a shout out. So definitely comment. Let me know where you're watching from. So my response was this, and this was what was revealed to me in that moment when he asked me what my identity was like and what my identity became. Growing up, I had an identity, and it wasn't necessarily a great one because I had some struggles with my father growing up. Nothing was ever good enough for him. No matter what I did, no matter how I excelled on the football field, it was always, well, you missed that tackle in the third quarter, and my identity began to develop growing up as somebody that wasn't just wasn't good enough, that just couldn't meet the mark. No matter what the mark was, I was always falling short of that mark. Ultimately, for those of you that know my story, at 17 years old, I made a split-second decision that landed me in prison for 10 years, and with that came an identity that began to develop. Being an ex-convict, no college education, etc. In a year into my incarceration, I got saved, and he was asking me this question, what did your identity become? And my identity became, obviously, when I got saved, I realized that God had a purpose for my life, and that there was something that I was going to go and do. And I took on this identity of this son of God that he was going to use. And then I got out of prison, right? And I got focused on, making something out of my life, and becoming successful, and went into corporate America and started to have a lot of success there. And then, I got caught back up in the world, and my identity began to become, someone that was successful, wanted to be successful, money driven, money focused, different things like that. I began to get caught back up in the world, and the world began to define my identity. I wasn't in relationship with God. I began to pull away from God in my freedom. I began to make decisions and choices that were not in line with my faith. I wasn't reading the word. I wasn't praying. I wasn't going to church. I wasn't doing all of these things that I knew would grow my identity in him. And and then and then I entered into um, a toxic relationship, long-term toxic relationship, and again, I was in a position where I felt like nothing that I did was good enough. That nothing that I did measured up, and my identity became that person's will instead of what my will was. Instead of walking in God's will for my life, my identity began to change and began to become what that relationship stipulated I was, who I was. And so my whole life, I have been on this journey of identity. And, every step of the way, God was sending people my way to remind me what my true identity was, Hey, Ryan, thanks for hopping in, bro. Love you, man. My identity was in him. I mean, he was the one that created me. He was the one that formed me, created me, had a plan and a vision for purpose for my life, an assignment that I was going to accomplish while I was here, something big that I was going to do. When he revealed that to me in that prison cell that night, when I took on that identity, when I received Christ and I took on that identity for my life, he revealed to me in that moment that true identity. But the world began to help me develop a different identity. Negative relationships began to embed in me an identity of myself that wasn't my true identity. I lost myself. I lost myself along the way. But like I said, God kept putting people in my life, and he kept sending messages to me to remind me of who I was and what my true identity was, who he had created me to become. And I know that there's people watching this right now, and there's going to be people watching this that are going or have gone through this struggle in their life, or are going through this struggle in their life. Like, what is my identity? Like, who am I really? And I hopped on and I wanted to go live and I wanted to share this with y'all today. And I promise I wouldn't take up too much of your time, but so I'm going to try to keep this really brief. But I met with a coaching client this morning. It's so funny because yesterday on this podcast, I had this revelation, this unbelievable revelation regarding identity, right? And this morning I meet with this coaching client and we sit down and he's sharing with me that he just transitioned from one company to another, and he's struggling a little bit with getting out there and rebranding, and he's been branding this way for so long, and now he's got to go out and brand this way. And this is why I always teach my coaching clients, build a personal brand, and that way, no matter what you do or where you go or who you lock arms with in the business world, you're always walking in your personal brand, right? And so he says to me, I feel like I'm recreating, or I've got to create this new identity. And immediately when he said it, the revelation I had yesterday came right back to me, and God was telling me, share with him your revelation. He needs to hear this. And so I shared with him, obviously, my journey and how my identity had been defined so many times by the world and so many times by other people, and what people spoke into me and what people said to me. And, there's obviously power in the tongue, as we know. And so in my life, in my journey, God was always reminding me who I was in him and what my true identity was. Even though there was a devil out there that was sending so many other things and making so many other efforts to distract me from my purpose, from my calling, from who God said I am and who God created me to be. He was always, the devil was always putting people in my life and doing things in my life that were meant to give me an identity that was not my true identity. And that's my identity in him, in God, in Christ. And so if you're watching this today and you want to know who you really are, what your true identity is, and what you've been created to go and do, then you got to go ask the one that created you. Dig into his word, dig into a relationship with him. Surround yourself with people that are going to speak life over you and that are not going to speak death over you. Remember, God created you with an identity that is unique to you, a purpose that is absolutely 100% unique to you. Don't let any situations or any people in life help you create an identity of yourself. Do not let the world help you to create an identity that is not your true identity. I hope this blesses somebody today. I love y'all so much. Thanks for hopping in. Thanks for tuning in. Again, if you're watching this on replay, type in replay. I want to know that you were here. I'd love to give you a shout out. Again, before I jump off, I want to remind you, November 3rd and 4th, the Women in Faith and Business Conference. This event, y'all, is shaping up to be probably one of the most amazing events that we have ever put on. Go check it out, kingdominfluencerevents.com. If you don't have anything going on November 3rd and 4th that's going to be absolutely life-changing for you, then you want to be with us on November 3rd and 4th. You're welcome to come too. We're focusing a lot of our messaging on women, but the things that are going to be taught at this event are going to help you take your business and your life to the next level as well. So hopefully we'll see you guys on November 3rd and 4th. Love you guys. Hope this resonates with you. Share this video out. Somebody in your friends list, somebody in your feed needs to hear this message. It could change their life, and you could be the person that shared it with them. I love you guys. God bless. We'll see you soon.